for children and young people at the point of disclosure or when things come to light. For them it's a very frightening time, and they may have already been told that if this ever gets out then bad things are going to happen, or it may be a fear that they just have that this now is, it was out of control and now it's even more out of control and the adults are dealing with this and I don't know what is happening. So for me it's really important that we keep our attention on the child and on the young person and on their interpretation of events and how they're feeling and perhaps where this has left them, because it may have left them in a more vulnerable place than they were already in through being abused.
The most important thing is to relay, however that is for you, however you relay, and remember how important it is that they are believed, that they experience you as a person who believes them and has a vested interest in them getting to the other side of this experience. Because so often children and young people say, they just don't believe me.
I think in part of planning for the disclosure, there's the statutory part about knowing who to tell and how to react. But I think from that very beginning, there needs to be somebody whose focus is on the child. So in a situation where a disclosure's been made and I might be having to go off and make phone calls and put that process into place, that there may be somebody else then who picks up the child and make sure that they're looking after the well-being of the child and allowing the child to talk and perhaps to voice those fears and those concerns, even if our honest answer is at the moment we're waiting for decisions to be made, but that the child doesn't feel that they're alone and can't ask those questions, and perhaps to be alongside that child encouraging the questions, to ask what they're not sure about, and for us not to have all the answers but to be helping them to find those answers. And perhaps also helping them with reintegration back into, if they're going back into class or if they're going back into family situation, if that's agreed that that's safe to do, that we're helping facilitate those transitions too. So I think one thing we're very aware of is how significant transitions are and how difficult it can be, even for us as adults, if we've talked about something difficult and we know something's going to happen but we don't know what, for us to then have to go back into a work environment. I think for children and young people where they're expected to go back in and focus and get on with what they were doing, I think there needs to be some compassion around that really. I mean, one way we get around that at school is we might put out a TLC alert that we say to staff, we don't explain anything about what's happened, but we say this child is on a TLC alert, which means that your expectations are a bit different. And if they get upset or if they look like they need to talk to somebody, that they're prompted to go and talk to that person or someone's brought to them. So it's about us being really attentive to the needs of the child as well as following the safeguarding procedures. Several young people who I've met, one of the reasons they waited until they were older to disclose was because of the fear that had been put into them that if they tell, they might get taken away from home. And no matter how bad it is at home, they don't know any alternative. So the fear of being removed from the people that they love has stopped them from disclosing. Working in a school, I think around the time of disclosure, there's very set concrete procedures that have to be followed, and there's a real sense of responsibility and of the statutory requirements that have to be followed. So when a disclosure's made, processes happen very quickly and there's very much focus on getting it right, making sure that we're telling who we need to be telling and that people are told in a timely way.
Working with 16 to 18-year-olds has particular challenges in terms of the law, because children have certain rights from the age of 16, but not everything till they're 18. So sometimes when working through confidentiality, working through what they disclose, it can be quite a grey area in terms of intervention, whether we need to let someone else know what's happening, especially if they're still in a family and so on. So that can be quite tricky work in terms of what we do.